with Paul, with Eric, with a couple of other people, we started doing like a 3 point backgammon match, and then double or nothing, playing no limit hold'em using the 15 backgammon pieces as the chips.
Oh, wow. All right.
So that was how we first started playing poker there. Then it developed into a regular small stake no limit game. Then it developed into a poker club where they played a little bit of backgammon, and then it became a full-time poker club with a lot of varieties of poker. So that's sort of the history of the Mayfair.
That's funny. That's the backgammon chips thing is really funny. I was at a friend's party and his 15-year-old son wanted to, he knew I played poker and he was like, how do you play? And like, so me, my wife, him, and his girlfriend, we just kind of sat in a circle, and all we had was Jenga blocks. So we just used those one block, two block,
Yeah.
hold them to teach them how the blinds work and the.
That'd be kind of fun to like stack your chips then.
It was
nice.
hard
like,
to shuffle.
Like, I want to raise, but I don't know if I can get it out. That's funny. So I do want to go back just to the acting part a little bit. Did you get into it because your dad was able to meet like famous actors and actresses and stuff like that?
Well, my go-to story is I tell people I fell asleep in bed with Elizabeth Taylor, but the truth is that I think my father and I either were going to see something on Broadway or coming back from seeing something, and he was interviewing Mike Todd, who was, I guess, her second husband. She was really gorgeous then, and I was probably, who knows, 10 years old, something like that, 8 years old.
Nice.
And kind of cute for an 8-year-old. And I was falling asleep during all the talk, and she's sitting there and she's bored with all the talk. And she says, I'm going in to nap. Do you want to take a nap? And I said, sure. So we go off and, nap for
She
an hour.
solicited you. All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I wasn't the first or the last to be solicited by her, but yes.
Well, that's fantastic, by the way. All right.
All right, really quick, guys. Phenom Poker is out now. It is live. And if you want to support Table One, just go to joinphenompoker.com, and that will help us. Fill in your information, and you'll be on with us.
Tons of people on there, tons of action, especially until Art and I will run out of money, I think.
That's true. And we are doing some sort of free roll. Anyone who signs up through our link, we're going to eventually reveal the details on Twitter, but if you sign up through our link, we are going to go all in up to 10 times at $100 no limit until somebody wins the $100. We might stack you 10 times and you'll lose 1,000 in this promotion, but we are trying to give away 100. So if we accidentally stack you 10 times, thanks. Thanks for playing. All right, joinphenompoker.com. Now.
My other one is that when I first met Marilyn, she was doing a Western, and by now I was probably 12. So even though I knew Marilyn was an important celebrity and had big whatevers, and, I was more interested in feeding carrots to the horses on the set of the Western than I was to hobnobbing with the stars. Yeah.
Nice. So you got to meet a lot of famous people growing up. Like during your acting career, did you? I know it's short lived, but like, were you able to like kind of rub elbows with anyone else?
No, Glenn was probably the closest I came to people who went on. I mean, there may have been people who went on to great success, but I never, they might have been in an acting class with me, and I'd long forgotten who they were, their names, or anything.
Was there any desire to go out to LA, or was New York kind of the acting
well,
capital?
That's sort of the next saga in the story. Living in New York, I can't support myself. It's getting cold. And a friend of mine, I had dropped out of Columbia at this point, and he had dropped out of Middlebury or somewhere. And we're talking about what to do. And we say, let's get out of the cold weather. And we decide to hitchhike to LA. So we hitchhike cross country, and we get to Kingman, Arizona. And in Kingman, Arizona, we're hitchhiking, and the police pick us up. The police say, you're vagrants. And we said, we're not vagrants. We're just hitchhiking to, whatever. And they said, well, you're not allowed to hitchhike. You have to be out of town and you better get a bus or something like that. And of course, we have no money for a bus, so we start wiring or calling, collect to have wired money from friends, or girlfriends, family, whatever, anything. And so maybe I ended up with $400 bus trip from Kingman, Arizona to Vegas. I get to Vegas, and of course, being a kid, I think, oh, I know poker. I can beat these guys. So I got into, I think it was a 10 cent to a dollar 5 card stud game downtown, like at the Four Queens or somewhere. And basically, nobody played without aces, and the game may have been crooked. And so, of course, went through some of my money there, and then I had some typical system for winning at roulette or whatever it was. And, also it's interesting, they didn't ask for ID. I was probably 18, 17, 19, whatever, well under 21.
So this is the
whatever.
early 60s then, yeah? All right.
Yeah, this would have been early to mid 60s.
Okay. All right.
Right. So now I drifted into LA, and in LA, at that point, poker was legal in Gardena, but it was all 5 card draw. 5 card draw high in the early days, then it switched over to low later on. And again, players dealt for themselves. It's an interesting thing going back that most of the history of gambling and of poker playing deals with cons and cheating and getting away with stuff. And it wasn't until I got to the Mayfair that I really realized how important it was in all games to be ethical, to be honest. Because when you've been brought up on movie after movie where they're bringing in marked cards and cold decks and doing this and a crooked dealer and all of those things, you think, well, that's the way to do it. That's how you win. You don't realize that there are strategies and things you can do to make yourself a better player. And here's another poker trivia. Do you know the origin of the term cold deck? They say they cold deck me, and you hear that.
I feel like Art would know above me on this
I
one.
think the origin is because it's preset, right? So there's no shuffling or like moving of the cards once it like comes in. It just goes in and it's cold.
It's when people play with the deck of cards a lot. It warms up from their skin temperature and handling the cards.
Okay.
But when they bring in another deck, like the waitress spills a drink over here, and somebody slips in a new deck of cards, now they deal out the hand, and your cards feel very cold to your touch.
Nice, Art.
You fold your 4 aces pretty quickly.
It's physically cold.
Yeah.
It's
They're
actually
physically
physically colder.
There was a Twitter feed about satellite strategy, winning a satellite, and they're like, "Is it ever right to fold aces?" And one of our old guests, Lynn Ashby, I don't know if you know him or not, but he's also quite the storytelling legend. He's like, yeah, I'd fold aces if I was in a home game and I came back from the bathroom and I looked at them. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right, actually.
That's a great line too.
So you get to LA. Are you playing like a 5 card draw and?
I'm playing a little bit, but mostly I'm trying to survive. I was getting more and more heavily into drugs and bad stuff, and I had a girlfriend who was selling grass, so I kind of helped in the sales end of things. And
drug dealer,
just a sales associate.
So
you were doing all the actor things without the actor income,
right? Well, I wasn't even going to auditions anymore. It's like it's a little like playing poker. You have to be really, really tough, and I wasn't tough. You have to be able to survive a bad beat, to go in, give a great reading, and have the guy say, "Well, you're terrific, but the producer's boyfriend is going to be, right for it, or you're too skinny, or you're too young," and it's like I would go home and cry for a week, and the people who succeed do 6 auditions a day. It's like one tough beat doesn't phase them at all.